Sir, I need to see identification and documentation of citizenship status.
I just showed you my driver's license. What's this checkpoint for?
Targeted compliance check in cooperation with local authorities. Where were you born?
Huntsville, Alabama. I'm active duty Air Force. My military ID is in my wallet if you need additional
Military ID doesn't prove...
Captain Derek Chambers had been living in Colorado Springs for 6 years. In all that time, he had driven North Academy Boulevard hundreds of times. But on this Saturday afternoon in April, something was different. A temporary safety checkpoint had appeared, one that had never existed before. Just minutes earlier, Derek had pulled out of the Peterson Space Force Base commissary parking lot with a trunk full of groceries. Steaks for Sunday's cookout. Ingredients for the pasta dish he promised his daughter's school potluck. Enough coffee to survive another week of early morning intelligence briefings. It was the most ordinary kind of errand. The kind of moment where life feels calm, predictable, safe. Until it wasn't. Ahead of him, traffic slowed to a crawl. 3 black federal SUVs blocked 2 of the 3 northbound lanes. Orange cones forced vehicles into a single narrow corridor. Agents in tactical vests stood beside the road, motioning cars forward one at a time. Homeland Security investigations. Derek frowned. There had been no alerts. No base notices. No public announcement. No explanation posted anywhere. And yet, every third or fourth vehicle was being pulled aside. His silver Toyota 4Runner rolled forward. Unlucky timing made it his turn. What should have been a 30-second license check quietly transformed into something far more serious the moment an agent leaned toward his window. The body camera would later capture everything. The pause. The glance. The shift in tone. The silent calculation. A black man in civilian clothes. An Alabama driver's license. And suddenly, that license was no longer enough. The agent asked questions that didn't quite make sense. Where are you coming from? Where are you going? Why are you in Colorado? Derek answered calmly. I live here. Still, the questions continued. Then came the phrase that changed everything. We need additional verification. Verification of what? Was never clearly explained. What Derek didn't know in that moment was that years of service, a top-secret clearance, and a lifetime of loyalty meant nothing once suspicion replaced logic. Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from. And if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Because stories like this don't spread on their own. They only reach people when you help share them. Captain Derek Chambers had never wanted to be anything other than Air Force. Service wasn't a career choice in his family. It was inheritance. His father had been a C-130 crew chief. His uncle had flown F-16s. His grandfather had served in support units connected to the Tuskegee Airmen during World War II. Uniforms weren't symbols in the Chambers household. They were identity. Derek grew up moving from base to base, England, Japan, stateside assignments, learning early how to make new friends fast and say goodbye even faster. He learned discipline before most kids learned multiplication. He learned that service meant sacrifice. And he learned that wearing the uniform meant something. Or at least, it was supposed to. He commissioned through ROTC at Alabama A&M in 2014. Intelligence track. Analytical specialty. By his early 20s, Derek was already immersed in classified environments where every detail of his life was reviewed, verified, and documented. Background checks. Polygraphs. Clearance renewals. Foreign travel approvals. Nothing about his existence went unexamined. By age 32, he was stationed at Peterson Space Force Base as an intelligence operations officer assigned to space surveillance. His team monitored potential threats to U.S. satellite systems. Work so sensitive he couldn't even describe it to his wife. The kind of job where trust is absolute because national security depends on it. At home, life was quieter. He was married to Jennifer, a high school English teacher he met in college. They had 2 children, Marcus, 13, and Sophia. They lived in a comfortable 4-bedroom home in the Briargate neighborhood. Not extravagant, not flashy, just stable. The type of life military service is supposed to build. Saturday, April 13th, 2024 was supposed to be completely normal. Derek slept in until 7:30, luxury by Air Force standards, that he drank coffee with Jennifer while the kids watched cartoons. Then he headed out for groceries. Jeans, black North Face pullover, Nikes, civilian clothes. His military ID sat in his wallet beside his Alabama driver's license. The commissary trip was routine. Small talk with fellow officers, a debate about Broncos draft picks, a text reminder from Jennifer about the correct pasta sauce, by 2:15 p.m. He was loading grocery bags into the trunk, already thinking about mowing the lawn and catching part of the Masters on TV. The drive home usually took 15 minutes. He never made it home on time, as Derek approached the checkpoint. Something in his chest tightened. Not fear. Experience. That familiar awareness every black man recognizes instantly. The knowledge that the rules sometimes change without warning. He watched agents wave some cars through with barely a glance. Others were pulled aside. No pattern. No explanation. No consistency. The uncertainty bothered him. When his turn came, the agent leaned in and asked for his license. Derek handed it over. The agent studied it longer than necessary. Then came the pause. Then the questions. Then the request for documents Derek had never been required to carry. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the interaction stopped being routine. Because to the agent, the man behind the wheel no longer looked like someone simply heading home with groceries. He looked like someone who didn't belong. When Derek's turn finally came, the agent didn't wave him forward. Instead, he pointed toward the shoulder. Derek guided the forerunner out of the lane, shifted into park, and waited, hands resting calmly on the steering wheel. He already knew what this meant. The agent who approached was white, mid-30s, rigid in posture. The kind of stance Derek had learned to recognize over years of military service. Not alert, not cautious, but confrontational. His name patch read Agent Reeves. A body camera sat centered on his tactical vest. The red recording light was on. License and registration, Reeves said through the open window. The tone wasn't hostile. But it wasn't friendly either. It was clipped. Final. Derek had already prepared both documents while waiting in line. He handed them over carefully, movements slow and deliberate. "Afternoon, officer," Derek said evenly. "Can I ask what this checkpoint is for?" Reeves didn't answer. He studied the license, looked up at Derek, then back down again. "You're a long way from Alabama, Mr. Chambers." Derek nodded calmly. "I'm stationed at Peterson," he said, gesturing behind him toward the base. "Active duty Air Force. Been here 6 years." Reeves gave a short acknowledgement, not agreement, not disbelief, just sound. Then he said something that made Derek's chest tighten instantly. "Sir, I need to see documentation proving your citizenship." For a moment, Derek thought he'd misunderstood. "Citizenship?" he repeated. "I just gave you my driver's license. What exactly is this checkpoint?" "Targeted compliance check," Reeves replied. "Conducted with local authorities. Standard procedure." The words sounded official. They also explained nothing. "Where were you born?" Reeves asked. "Huntsville, Alabama." Derek's mind raced. Why would a routine traffic stop require proof of citizenship? "I'm active duty Air Force," he said again. "My military ID is in my wallet if you need additional verification." Reeves shook his head. Military ID doesn't establish citizenship. That's when Derek felt his stomach drop. "I need a birth certificate or a passport. Do you have either of those with you?" Think about that for a moment. A federal agent asking a man driving home from the grocery store to produce a birth certificate. When was the last time you carried one with you? Should government agents be allowed to demand proof of citizenship at random roadside checkpoints? Without suspicion, without cause? Comment below, because what happened next shows how easily vague language can conceal serious constitutional violations. "No," Derek said carefully. "I don't carry my birth certificate when I'm buying groceries. Nobody does." Then he added, trying one last time to inject reason into the situation. "I'm a captain in the United States Air Force. I hold a top-secret clearance. My citizenship has been verified repeatedly by the federal government. You can check with Peterson. You can confirm my status in minutes." Reeves stepped back and waved another agent over. A Hispanic woman approached from the rear SUV. Her name patch read Agent Martinez. Her body camera was rolling too, now capturing the encounter from a second angle. "What's the issue?" Martinez asked. Reeves answered without looking at Derek. "Subject claims to be military, but can't provide proof of citizenship." Derek turned slightly, frustration finally breaking through his discipline. "That's not what I said," he corrected firmly. "I said I don't carry my birth certificate in my car. There's a difference." He took a breath. "My military ID proves I'm a commissioned officer. You cannot be a commissioned officer in the U.S. Armed Forces without being a U.S. citizen. It's legally impossible. There was a brief silence. Then Martinez reached for the door handle. "Sir, step out of the vehicle." Derek's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Every instinct in his body told him this was wrong. This wasn't a lawful checkpoint anymore. This wasn't verification. This was escalation without cause. But he also knew the reality. Refusing could make it worse. Arguing could give them justification. One wrong move could turn confusion into force. So Derek did what countless people in his position are forced to do. He swallowed the anger, suppressed the disbelief, and prepared to step out. Not because he had done anything wrong, but because compliance had become the safest option in an interaction that no longer made sense. Derek stepped out of the vehicle slowly, hands open, movements deliberate. The April air was warm, the sun high and unforgiving above him. Traffic continued flowing past the checkpoint like nothing unusual was happening at all. Cars moved. Life went on. And yet he was standing on the shoulder of a Colorado roadway being questioned about whether he belonged in the country where he had been born. The country he had served for a decade. The country he had sworn an oath to defend. His first thought wasn't fear. It was time. Frozen food sat in the back of his SUV, already beginning to soften. Minutes were slipping away for absolutely no reason. "Hands on the vehicle," Agent Reeves ordered. Derek complied, placing his palms against the warm metal of his 4Runner. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed drivers slowing as they passed. Some stared. Some lifted phones. Recording. He felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Tomorrow, his kids' classmates might be watching video of their father being detained on the side of the road. Agent Martinez conducted the pat-down. Efficient. Professional. No aggression, just procedure. Behind him, Derek heard the sound of his wallet being opened. Cards sliding out one by one. Driver's license. Credit cards. Insurance. Gym membership. Costco card. And finally, his military identification. Reeves held it up. Studied it. The card clearly showed his photograph. His rank. Captain. Active duty. United States Air Force. Reeves tilted it slightly. This could be fake. Derek closed his eyes for half a second. "It's not," he said, exhaustion creeping into his voice. "Call Peterson Space Force Base. Call the 21st Space Wing Command Post. The number is public. Tell them you have Captain Derek Chambers detained roadside and see how fast someone responds." He paused. "Or call OSI. I'm sure they'd be very interested to hear that one of their cleared personnel is in handcuffs over citizenship questions." Reeves stepped closer. "Are you threatening me?" "No," Derek replied steadily. "I'm explaining the consequences of what you're doing." He took a breath. "I hold a top-secret clearance. I've been investigated by the FBI, the Air Force, and multiple federal agencies. My citizenship is documented, verified, and recorded across government databases. What I want to know is this. Under what legal authority are you stopping random Americans and demanding proof of citizenship under something you're calling a compliance check?" Martinez shifted uncomfortably. Her body camera captured the hesitation. "Maybe we should verify through Peterson," she said quietly. Reeves didn't hesitate. "We'll verify at the detention center." He reached for his handcuffs. "Sir, turn around." Derek stared at him. "You're detaining me for immigration status?" he asked, disbelief finally breaking through his composure. "So this was about immigration the entire time?" His voice rose despite himself. "I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm active duty military. I just left a classified facility. My groceries are melting in my trunk, and you're putting me in handcuffs because I don't carry my birth certificate." "Turn around," Reeves repeated. "Hands behind your back." Derek looked at Martinez. For a moment, he hoped she would intervene. She didn't meet his eyes. He turned instead toward the growing crowd. Phones raised. Strangers filming. Witnesses to something that should never have happened. He thought of Jennifer. Of his kids. Of the phone call he would eventually have to make. Of explaining to his 13-year-old son why his father, a captain who had served 10 years, had been taken away like a criminal. "I'm not resisting," Derek said clearly, ensuring the body cameras captured every word. "I am complying under protest." He paused. "I want it on record that I've identified myself as active duty military, that I've offered multiple methods to verify my identity and citizenship, and that all of them have been refused." The cuffs closed around his wrists. Cold metal against warm skin. Despite the sunshine, a chill ran through him. Reeves guided him to one of the black SUVs and seated him in the back. The door shut. From the tinted window, Derek watched Martinez speaking into her radio, apparently requesting a tow for his vehicle. His groceries. His life paused on the side of the road. He sat there for over an hour, still cuffed, still unable to reach his phone. Traffic continued. Agents continued stopping vehicles as if nothing extraordinary had occurred. By now, the frozen food was ruined. Jennifer would be worried. He'd told her he'd be home by 3. It was nearly 4:30. Eventually, the checkpoint shut down. Reeves climbed into the driver's seat. Martinez took the passenger side. The SUV pulled away. Not toward Peterson. Not back toward the base. But toward downtown. "Where are you taking me?" Derek asked. "To the detention facility for processing," Reeves replied. And in that moment, Derek realized something terrifying. This had stopped being a mistake. It had become a system, one that no longer cared who he was or what he had done for his country. "Standard procedure," Agent Reeves said without emotion. "For individuals who cannot provide citizenship documentation." Derek's jaw tightened. "I am a captain in the United States Air Force," he said again, his voice controlled but edged with anger. "I do not need to provide citizenship paperwork because my commission is proof of citizenship. Detaining me violates federal law. And when my command finds out where I am, this will become a serious problem." Neither agent responded. The rest of the drive passed in silence. No explanations. No clarification. Only the hum of tires against concrete as they descended into the underground garage of the federal building. Derek was escorted through sterile corridors, white walls, fluorescent lights, security doors clicking open and closed, until they reached a processing area. Only then were the handcuffs removed. A woman in her 40s sat behind the desk. She looked tired, overworked, bored. "Name?" she asked without looking up. "Captain Derek Chambers, United States Air Force." For the first time, she paused. "Did you say captain?" "Yes, ma'am." Her eyes lifted slowly. She turned to Reeves. "You detained an Air Force captain?" "He couldn't provide citizenship documentation," Reeves replied quickly. "Did he present military identification?" "Yes, but nothing," she interrupted sharply. Her fingers moved fast across the keyboard. "Military ID requires U.S. citizenship. You cannot be commissioned otherwise. That's federal law." She stared at her screen. Then her posture changed. Completely. "Oh my God," she whispered. She looked up again. "He has a TS/SI clearance." The room went silent. "You detained someone with a top-secret clearance," she said, now staring directly at Reeves. "And you didn't verify through his command?" Reeves swallowed. "We were following protocol for the compliance check." Her chair scraped backward. "What compliance check?" she snapped. "Where is the operational plan? Where is supervisory authorization? What statute were you operating under?" Reeves said nothing. Martinez looked down at the floor. The woman turned to Derek. Her tone softened. "Sir, I am truly sorry. This should never have happened." She exhaled sharply. "We are releasing you immediately." Derek nodded once, but he wasn't done. "I want documentation," he said calmly. "I want a record of this detention. I want the names of every agent involved. And I want a written explanation of what legal authority was used to stop me." She nodded again. "You'll have all of it. And I'm reporting this up my chain of command. This is very serious." Within 30 minutes, Derek was returned his belongings. Wallet, phone, keys. Apologies followed, formal, uncomfortable, meaningless. He stepped into the federal building lobby feeling drained, angry, and shaken. He called Jennifer. "Where have you been?" she asked instantly. "I've been worried sick." "Why weren't you answering your phone?" "I was detained," Derek said quietly. "Detained," she repeated. "By who?" "Federal agents. At a checkpoint. They called it a compliance check." Pause. "They didn't believe I was a citizen." Silence. Then her voice came back, confused and rising. "Derek, what are you talking about? You're active duty military." "I know," he said. "It didn't matter. They wanted my birth certificate. When I didn't have it, they handcuffed me and brought me downtown." "They handcuffed you?" she whispered. "A captain with a clearance?" "Yes." And in that moment, the full weight of it hit him. Not just the detention, not just the humiliation, but the truth beneath it. His rank hadn't mattered. His service hadn't mattered. His clearance hadn't mattered. To them, he was just another man they decided didn't belong. They didn't care about any of it. Derek walked toward the exit, needing air, needing distance from the building that had swallowed his entire day. "Can you come get me?" he asked quietly into the phone. "They towed my truck from the checkpoint." "I'm on my way," Jennifer said immediately. "And we're getting a lawyer. This can't be legal." "It's not," Derek replied. "Trust me, it's not." By the time he finally made it home, after recovering his 4Runner from impound and throwing away groceries that had long since melted, it was nearly 8 o'clock at night. His kids ran to him. "Why were you gone so long?" Derek struggled for words that he tried to explain, gently, carefully, that sometimes bad things happen to good people. That even someone who serves their country can still be treated unfairly. That night, sleep never came that he replayed everything, the vague phrase, compliance check, the refusal to explain authority, the handcuffs, the hours in the back of the SUV, that he was an Air Force captain, that he held a top-secret clearance, that he had served for 10 years, deployed to war zones, given the best years of his life to the military. And none of it mattered to agents who saw a black man and demanded proof that he belonged. On Monday morning, Derek called a civil rights law firm. By the end of the week, attorneys had reviewed the body camera footage the agents were legally required to preserve. What they saw was damning. Derek clearly identified himself as military, presented his official ID, offered verification through command channels. Every offer was ignored. Instead, agents demanded documents he had no legal reason to carry. 3 weeks later, the lawsuit was filed. Captain Derek Chambers, United States Department of Homeland Security Agent Reeves, Agent Martinez. The complaint alleged unreasonable seizure under the Fourth Amendment, false imprisonment, racial profiling, deception through misleading checkpoint terminology, deprivation of civil rights under color of law. The evidence was overwhelming. Body camera footage showed the entire stop from multiple angles. The checkpoint itself came under scrutiny. HSI could not produce clear legal authority for what they labeled a compliance check, which was, in reality, immigration enforcement conducted on a public roadway. Derek's military records proved unquestionable citizenship. Security experts testified that detaining someone with his clearance level without verification constituted a serious national security breach. Then came the discovery phase, and that's when everything broke open. That afternoon, the checkpoint stopped 37 vehicles. 31 were waved through almost immediately. 6 were detained. Every single one of those 6 drivers was a person of color. The pattern was undeniable. The phrase compliance check had been used to disguise the true purpose of the operation. 18 months later, the case went to trial. The federal courtroom was packed. Active duty service members, veterans, many in uniform. To them, Derek's detention wasn't just personal. It was an insult to everyone who served. Derek testified for 2 full days. He described his career, his clearance, his attempts to verify identity through official channels. He described the handcuffs, the hours of detention, the humiliation of being treated like a criminal while frozen groceries melted in his vehicle. He told the jury how the agents used the term compliance check, only admitting the immigration purpose after he questioned their authority. "I've served this country for 10 years, he said, his voice steady but heavy. "I've deployed to places I can't discuss. I've done work I'm not allowed to describe. I've held secrets that protect American lives. And federal agents decided none of that mattered, because I didn't carry my birth certificate to the grocery store. They saw a black man and assumed I didn't belong, despite my military ID, despite my willingness to verify, despite basic logic. And they tried to hide what they were really doing by calling it a compliance check instead of what it was: immigration enforcement without proper authority." Experts followed. Military personnel officials testified that commissioning without citizenship is impossible. Constitutional scholars explained that misleading language does not make unconstitutional checkpoints legal. Former federal agents testified that the stop violated established protocols at every level. The defense argued the agents were following procedure. But they couldn't explain why Derek's military ID wasn't accepted, why command verification wasn't attempted, why racial disparity was so clear. Or why deceptive terminology was used at all. The jury deliberated for 9 hours. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous: liable on all counts. The damages reflected their outrage: $12.4 million, $4.9 million in compensatory damages, $7.5 million in punitive damages. A message, loud and unmistakable, about racial profiling, constitutional abuse, and Deception by federal authority. Derek sat silently as the verdict was read. Jennifer held his hand. His command filled the gallery behind him. The money mattered, but the validation mattered more. A jury officially declaring what happened was wrong, illegal, unacceptable, and disguising enforcement with softer language didn't make it lawful. Agents Reeves and Martinez were terminated. Federal investigations followed. HSI implemented sweeping reforms. Elimination of random compliance checkpoints, mandatory. Immediate verification of military credentials, clear disclosure of checkpoint purpose. Training on military identification recognition. Accountability measures for racial profiling. Derek continued serving. But the experience changed him. He now keeps his birth certificate, passport, and military orders in his vehicle. A precaution that should never be necessary. He speaks at civil rights forums. At military diversity events. His story becoming a reminder that service does not always shield someone from discrimination, and that vague government language can hide serious constitutional violations. The body camera footage is now used in federal training programs. A case study. A warning about assumptions replacing facts, about language being used to mask illegal power. And in Colorado Springs, Derek still does his grocery shopping on Saturdays, still drives the same road home, but never without remembering the day frozen food melted in his trunk, while federal agents decided his service wasn't proof enough that he belonged in America, and tried to hide what they were really doing behind a harmless-sounding phrase. Compliance check. If you believe military service should be respected, that checkpoints should clearly state their purpose, and that racial profiling has no place in federal enforcement, hit subscribe. Because Derek's story proves something powerful. Wearing the uniform doesn't always protect you. When assumptions about who belongs override the facts standing right in front of you,